Good day, friends. It's the 4th of November. Yeah, it's cold. Actually, warmer. We actually had a cold week the previous week. We had snow on the ground, but it's normal in October. For about 3-4 days you'll get snow, and then it'll all melt off, and then lately anyways, you'll get relatively warmer weather until somewhere toward the end of November, beginning of December. Sometimes even the end of December, where the snow really starts falling. You're dependent. Had COVID, whatever the new version of it is. Went by relatively mildly, but got this dry cough that just now leaving, and fatigue that took about 3 weeks to fully go away. So, all the little presents. No, I didn't take any vaccines. I did take a Sputnik vaccine a couple of years ago when the big thing was going on. Sputnik doesn't use mRNA, excuse me. So we don't have the turbo cancers, no meter-long blood clots, the six-fold increase in cardiac events for young people. That's all in the West, where your owners poison you on a regular basis. If it's not the food, it'll be the vaccines or whatever else they can think of. Nice masters in the West. Haven't talked long. Haven't made a video in a long time, so we'll talk a bit longer today. All this that's happening, probably going to talk about, at least the beginning, I'm going to talk about Israel. Now, I do have some relatives in Israel from my father's side. Yes, from my father's side, I am part Jewish. I am Russian, though, and that's my mother's side is all Russian and German. So, nice mix like that. So I do have some relatives from my father's side over there. And yeah, I've tried talking to them, which is near impossible at this point. First of all, what happened? As far as we see it, as far as we know it, let's begin with this. Hamas is a terrorist organization. I'm not making any gestures in their direction. They are a terrorist organization. Having said that, the Israelis aren't acting any better. Actually, probably worse, because they can do it on a larger scale. Hamas, for those of you who don't know, they're not a resistance organization. They are an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a terrorist organization, which is an Islamic Sunni jihadist organization. And when the Muslim Brotherhood, thanks to Barack Obama and his Islamic jihadist friends, they came to power in Egypt for less than a year before the army kicked them out. They murdered a lot of people. So let's not make any hay of this. Hamas is an Islamic organization, which is why the Egyptians aren't exactly too thrilled to go help them. The last damn thing they want is a strong Islamic jihadist groupie sitting there on their border, which isn't going to help them any either. The government of Palestinians is Fatah, which is a nationalist organization, a mix of Sunni Muslims, some Shiite Muslims, Orthodox Christians, Catholic Christians, atheists, all kinds. The Israelis did not create Hamas. They did finance them, though, especially when Hamas was in their peaceful phase. That is, when they were doing public work, gathering support before they started the military arm. So the Israelis were funding them as a counterweight to Fatah. That way the Israelis, as long as the Palestinians were divided and fighting amongst themselves, Netanyahu and his crew could get out of implementing the two-state solution, which is the only way they're ever going to have peace. I mean, let's face reality. Either they're going to have to, well, it's not the only way. This is one of two ways. The other way they're going to have peace is by implementing a one-state solution where all the Palestinians get Israeli citizenship and the same right as the Israelis have. And they don't want to do that. Well, if you don't want to do that, then give the people their state and the lands that they have. Stop colonizing, remove the colonies from the West Bank, and let them have their land as well. Yeah, well, I just got hate mail from my relatives in Israel. Oh well, can't speak to them right now anyways, because their brains are fucking mush. The only thing they say, we got hit. Okay, you got hit. Yeah, you got hit. We've been hit quite a few times. You don't see us going genociding everybody around us, do you? And if we, 8 years, the little Nazis that Israel supports in Ukraine been hitting women and children. You don't see us going in there massacring everything that moves. If we did it like the Israeli style, there wouldn't be a human being left alive in most of Europe by now, for everything that Europe has done to us. Well, Israeli style. It's not really Israeli style. It's the Western style. Because let's face reality, massacring civilian populations is how the West fights wars. Genocide is the Western call card. And the Israelis, those Israelis in government and such, are Westerners. They're absolutely following the usual Western playbook, murder everyone. And then call themselves civilized and peace-loving. The peace of the graveyard. So anyways, which is, by the way, idiotic considering the majority of the population in Gaza Strip did not support Hamas. Hamas came to power in 2006 by genociding, they were talking about bloody orgy, by genociding all the Fatah members, their families, down to their last kids. There was a couple weeks of just massacres going on. So the vast majority of the population did not support Hamas. But I'll tell you this, as a father myself, you murder my kids, I will come at you with a rifle till I die. And I ain't going to be out to die quick, because I'm going to be out to murder your asses as long as I can. And that's what right now the idiots in Tel Aviv have created for themselves with their American masters. Because they've created a gigantic army. If Hamas and its allied organizations, there's more than one organization working there. Hamas is just the top dog. Have maybe 30, 40,000 fighters. They've got a hell of a lot more now because everybody wants revenge. They want revenge after watching their families, their extended families, being massacred by Israeli bombs. And there's by Israeli bombs, by Israeli artillery. I mean, flat out, the Israelis, if you listen to what these people are saying, I don't know if they're just angry and brainless. Brainless they are. But angry and brainless, or just really that genocidal. When you're talking about massacring everybody. You know what? 80 years ago, they were doing that to you. So wake the fuck up, you psychopathic little twats. I got nothing else to say for that. Jesus Christ, how many women and children can you murder if your bloodlust is filled? And you're going to then sit there and lecture about what the Nazis did. And the Nazis were subhuman bastards. And we destroyed them. Unfortunately, we're having to destroy them again. And Israel, by the way, does support Ukraine, no matter what they say. 2,500 plus Israeli fighters with weapons left and fought for the Nazis, as they call themselves, Żydobanderowcy. And not to mention equipment that Israel sent. So yeah. And I loved it. My uncle there, троюродный дядя, so second removed uncle, great uncle, I guess what you call in Western or in English parlance. 8,500 dead civilians. It's like, oh, what you've done in Ukraine. Like, oh, what we've done in Ukraine. Yeah, official death toll in Ukraine is about 8,500 over almost 2 years, and over 5,500 of those are our people that those fucking Nazis are artillerying every single day, dropping drones on every single day. A little bit different there. So, anyways, and these 8,500, now 10,000, were killed in what, less than 3 weeks? 3 weeks? Not exactly what you can compare, and I told them as much. No, we Russians have not forgotten that Israel sent fighters, sent equipment, and we're not going to forget that. Or that they played games hiding behind civilian planes and one of our radar planes in Syria, so that it drew in a Syrian anti-aircraft missile and killed 11 Russian servicemen 2 years ago. Nobody's forgotten that. And nobody's going to be in a especially forgiving mood. But the Israelis are morons. I mean, this is going to be a case study in how to be ineptly stupid as a population and as a government. I mean, I understand Netanyahu's fucked. I mean, he's about as fucked as it gets. And the moment the combat stops, his head is going to be on a pole. Well, he'll run to the U.S. But, I mean, he's royally fucked for everything he's done, and he's screwed up. So he's going to keep this war running as long as he can. So Israel had the sympathy of the entire world. I am talking about most of the Muslim countries were sympathetic to them for what Hamas did. Hamas is a terrorist organization. They did massacre civilians left and right. Comes out from articles Israeli army massacred their own civilians too out of panic because they opened up fire on Hamas and took out hostages and hostage takers along, equally out of their own panic. And that's because the Israeli army was too busy taking TikTok videos and swinging their asses around rather than, practicing tactics. And that's not on the soldiers in this case. That's on the officers, or the lack of any quality in those officers. I can't, I'll tell you this. In my company, I couldn't imagine allowing that. Shit like that going on? No. I won't say I was a total disciplinarian, but no fucking way I would allow something like that just as a professional officer. So the fact that they're professional officers allowed that kind of shit to go on, Drago pashli. It just says how low their quality actually fell. These aren't the Israelis of the 80s and 90s. Occupation duty and beating up unarmed civilians in the West Bank tends to lower your combat quality. Because, you don't exactly have to practice infantry tactics against unarmed civilians. Or when you're backing up psychopathic settlers from the U.S. who come over there to fulfill their fucked up fantasies about taking over other people's land and murdering them. Because, come on, a lot of those settlers are Americans who watched way too many fucked up movies in their lives. And now they get to fill them out. And that's the other thing. There's an interesting aspect of history here now that we've talked about on to Americans. In this case, Americans and English, Anglo-Saxons in general, Anglosphere in general. There's a thing called Christian Zionists. And yeah, many heard of what Christian Zionists are. These guys who blindly support the Israeli Zionists and all that. Let's get a little more detailed. The Christian Zionists created the Jewish Zionists. Oh yeah, this rabbit hole runs deep. Let's begin with 1830s, 1833 to be exact. John Darby creates this heretical crap called rapture. It is not Christian theology. It has no basis in Christianity. He took two phrases out of the Bible, loosely, that God calls up his saints to him, and based an entire new theology off that. I mean, really, it is that thinly based. So, for those of you that don't know what rapture is, and then out of my viewers who didn't grow up around Protestants, evangelicals to be more accurate, because as far as I know, Lutherans don't accept this stupid shit either. Rapture is this belief that Christ is going to return twice. The first time he's going to return in the skies and call forth to him all his saints. And who are the saints? Of course, the evangelicals who suffer the most for Christ, or in their heads anyways. And they're just going to teleport up. They're not going to have to die. They're just going to teleport up. And then humanity's going to, eat each other for the next 7 years of chaos. And then Christ will come down to judge everyone. No, but, he's got his saints, and then he's going to judge everyone to hell who aren't these evangelical nut jobs. Which is why they support Israel in this case. So next step. The Christian evangelicals in the UK, Christian Zionists, in the UK actually predate the Jewish Zionists. So all this started in the 1830s. Really took off in the U.S. quite a bit, because there's a lot more evangelicals in the U.S. than there are in the U.K., where most of the Christians in the U.K., if they're on the Irish side, are Catholic, and the rest are mostly Church of England, which also, as far as I know, doesn't support this silly crap. Even though the Church of England's gone so far off the LGBT, fucked in the head, non-Christian crap. Sorry I'm cussing so much today, but that's the kind of mood I'm in. Crap off the deep end, the leftist deep end. It's no longer Christian either. So anyways, the problem here is, like all these end-time ministries with their tours to Israel to see where Armageddon's going to be, they need Armageddon. How do you get Armageddon? To get Armageddon, you've got to get the third temple. To get the third temple, you have to get Israel. And not just an Israel. You need to get a Jewish-only Israel, ethnically and religiously. So it has to be a pure Jewish, this is their doctrine, pure Jewish Israel. So Christians, Orthodox, Catholic, Muslims who live in Israel, they need not apply. They need to be gotten rid of. And the Palestinians, obviously, who are sitting on top of the Temple Mount, need to be gotten rid of. Now, one Russian nun, whose interview I watched, she was talking about that there are already specially bred sacrificial cows have already been brought into Israel from the U.S. by plane, of course. That are supposed to be the burnt offerings to for the new Temple Mount, for the new construction, as sacrifices, as burnt offerings. And there are more than a few people have close enough have said that they've seen the plans for the new temple. So the Western Christians, it's not as if the Baptists suddenly love Jews. They don't. But they're more than happy to use them to start World War III so they can get their little Armageddon on in their little psychopathic anti-Christian drive. I mean, these people really are the Antichrists, little foot soldiers. You got between the out-and-out American Satanists and the elite and these evangelical psychopaths going hand-to-hand trying to start World War III for their various fucked-up fantasies. One, because they think they're God's chosen, in this case, Christian chosen, and the other because they're Satan's chosen and they need mass death. So it's a perfect partnership that only can grow up in America or in England, particularly in America. So there you go. These idiots and the Israelis are too stupid to figure out that they're the foot soldiers to get all this going. They think they're going to use the evangelical, and the evangelicals are very well into using them. You know, who's the whore, who's the pimp here? It's hard to tell these days. So that's a situation you got in Israel. On the Ukrainian front, so even the Western media now has to admit, at least the first-tier media, though some of the second-tier little agro-prop wannabes are still writing about the great Ukrainian offensive. Yeah, it failed. we knew it. We knew it failed. It was going to fail from day one. We knew it failed back 3 months ago, and then it continued human wave attacks. Total collapse. Right now, MSNBC filed this idiotic little report that in Avdeevka, which is a fortress town that needs to get taken, it's tactically already surrounded. What tactically surrounded means is, even though it's physically not fully surrounded, the only roads leading in are under artillery fire and direct fire of Russian missiles and Russian tanks. So nothing gets in, nothing gets out. Only if it gets in, it's seriously risking its life getting in. And the Ukrainians are pumping in every bit of reserves they can get in there. Well, not because it makes any sound defensive position, but because Führer Zelensky, the Führer, believes that if he loses that territory, he'll lose all support from the West. So he's quite willing to sacrifice what's left of the holes to meet his attempts at living a bit longer and snorting more cocaine. Well, of course, he's got his palaces in places like Malibu. Though I think the U.S. would probably, if he survived, he'd get the Marcos treatment. They'd put him in jail and strip him of all his money. That's the usual way the U.S. works with any of its little henchmen that actually survive and don't get assassinated by other U.S. henchmen that the U.S. sets on them when it needs to get rid of them. Being a U.S. henchman is really not a good job. But anyways, I digress. So this U.S. MSNBC, I know what MSNBC is. You can't expect anything that even remotely looks like the truth from that shithole organization. But then again, almost all American mainstream media is a shithole organization that does nothing but lie. Doesn't have any clue of what the truth could ever be. People like Tucker Carlson or Judge Batana who were pushed out because they told the truth. So, So that's from Fox News. The others, like CNN, never told any truth to begin with and aren't capable of telling the truth. They'd have to break with their master Satan for that one. So anyways, MSNBC and their idiot clown world there has written that in 2 weeks, Russia has lost more tanks and men than Ukraine in its 4 months of its vaunted counteroffensive, which is just an offensive, a very failed offensive. So just to put this in perspective, so this one little town, Russia has thrown away, if you were to believe these idiots, Russia has thrown away 1,500 tanks and personnel carriers and 90,000 men. I mean, just from that point alone is moronic. But, okay, it is what it is. It's the Western media at its finest. One day, all this is going to come out in truth. Well, okay, I'm not going to say that Americans are going to be shocked, because most Americans will forget whatever happened. They don't remember what they did yesterday. Attention span of a 30-second commercial. That's the unfortunate truth of that. So anyways, that's the situation right now. I'm going to cut now. I'll do another video later on. There's lots to talk about. But yeah, the Israelis, of course, like I said, they're the 30,000 they think they're fighting against Hamas. They're going to be fighting against a good 150,000, because every man is going to be pissed off with a rifle that's still alive and watch his family get murdered. And they've lost. They went from having the sympathy of the world in 2 weeks to having the hatred of half the world, and growing. And they're really clueless about it when you try to tell them that. Their media, of course, doesn't tell them anything. They're no better. Their media is no better than any other Western media. Just a lying propaganda machine. And they don't want to hear it. That's the other thing. You can't tell them because they don't want to believe it. Everyone's behind us. No, you're not. In fact, you're getting diplomatic ties cut left and right. Every day is another 1 or 2 nations saying, to hell with you. Psychopathic murderers. And they don't get it. I mean, they're in a bubble of hatred that's just eating their souls. And they're too blind, or too angry, or too stupid to figure it out. So anyways, go with God.